As soon as Jack heard the snores of the giant, he crept out of the oven, seized the hen, and tiptoed out of the castle. Then he set off running along the road as fast as ever he could. On and on he ran, until at last he came to the top of the beanstalk. He climbed down quickly and took the wonderful hen to his poor mother. When Jack set the hen on the table and ordered it to lay a golden egg, Jack's mother could not believe her eyes. "Now our worries are over," she said. After a while, Jack longed for another adventure. He was determined to visit the giant's castle again. He disguised himself so that the giant's wife would not recognize him. Just as before, Jack climbed the beanstalk and reached the castle. When the giant's wife opened the door, he said, "I'm hungry and tired. Can I stay for the night?" "You cannot stay here," replied the giant's wife. "The last boy I took in stole my husband's hen." But Jack chatted so pleasantly that eventually the giant's wife let him in. After Jack had eaten a good supper, the giant's wife hid him in a cupboard. No sooner had he done this, when in stomped the giant, roaring, "Fee, fi, fo, fum, I smell the blood of an Englishman. Be he alive or be he dead, I'll grind his bones to make my bread." "Nonsense," said the giant's wife. "You are dreaming." And she set an enormous supper before him. After supper, the giant roared, "Fetch me my money bags." His wife brought the bags and went off to bed. The giant emptied all the money onto the table and counted it over and over again before putting it back into the bags. Then he fell asleep. As soon as Jack heard the giant's snores, he crept out of the cupboard and picked up the heavy money. He managed to sling them over his shoulder. Then he let himself out of the castle as quietly as possible. Jack could not run along the road because the money bags were so heavy, but he reached the top of the beanstalk safely. Jack's mother was overjoyed to see him, and when he emptied the money bags on the table, she was astonished. With the money they built a bigger house and bought furniture, new clothes and food. Jack and his mother were very contented, but soon Jack began to long for more adventure. He was determined to visit the giant's castle once more. This time, Jack used a different disguise. Once again, Jack climbed the beanstalk, followed the same path, and arrived at the castle door. The giant's wife did not recognize him, and he begged for a night's lodging. "No, no," she cried. "You cannot come in here. The last two boys I took in were thieves. No, you cannot come in." Jack begged and begged, and at last the giant's wife took pity on him, let him in and gave him some supper. Then she hid him in the wash basket in the corner. Soon the giant came home and roared, "Fee, fi, fo, fum, I smell the blood of an Englishman. Be he alive or be he dead, I'll grind his bones to make my bread." "Nonsense," said the giant's wife. "You're dreaming." And she set an enormous supper before him. After supper, the giant shouted, "Bring me my harp." The giant's wife brought a beautiful golden harp and set it on the table before him. Then she went off to bed. "Play!" roared the giant, and the harp began to play of its own accord. Jack had never heard such sweet music. The harp continued to play until the giant was almost asleep. Then he shouted, "Stop!" And the music stopped. As soon as Jack heard the loud snores of the giant, he jumped out of the corner and seized the harp. But the harp called out, "Master! Master!" The giant woke up in a fury. "You are the boy who stole my hen and my money bags. he bellowed. Then he staggered to his feet and set off after Jack. Jack was terrified. He ran for his life toward the beanstalk, looking over his shoulder. Jack saw the giant striding after him. Then he ran as fast as ever he had run before in his life. Jack reached the top of the beanstalk safely, but the giant was close behind him. He scrambled and slid down the beanstalk, shouting, "Mother! Mother! Bring me the axe! Quickly! The giant is coming!" Then Jack's mother brought to the son the axe, but then the giant was climbing rapidly down the beanstalk. Jack swung the axe with all his strength and gave one mighty blow at the beanstalk. The beanstalk toppled down. And the giant fell dead in Jack's garden. And so big was he that he filled it from end to end. Pointing at the giant, Jack said to his mother, "He robbed us of all our wealth." At that moment there appeared the old woman who had talked to Jack. She told him that she was really a fairy, and that it was she who had made Jack take the magic beans in exchange for the cow. She had wanted him to climb the beanstalk, and she had led him to the giant's castle. "Your troubles are now over," the fairy told Jack and his mother. "You will never be poor again, and you will be happy as long as you live." And so it was. Jack and his mother lived happily ever after. The end.